We started NextWorld because it's time to make a difference in workplaces around Australia and around the world. It's a great opportunity right now because technology, software, hardware, the cognitive neuroscience of learning is all converging to make VR absolutely possible and relevant in today's modern workplace. Human resource professionals, safety professionals, L&D professionals, people in the executive level, it's now an opportunity for them to get maximum benefit out of their learning where perhaps it wasn't possible in the past. VR is yielding new value. We're making a difference through our VR technology, and that's why we started NextWorld. The reason why enterprise VR is growing at such a rapid rate is because it's coming off such a low base. Gaming, VR has been around for a very long time. It's had an opportunity to grow through the years. Now, people are realizing that enterprise VR is possible in every workplace these days. They're seeing that, again, that hardware is available, it's affordable. They're seeing that there is an opportunity point that wasn't there in the past for VR to actually enter the workplace. That's why it's growing at such a rapid rate. And it's going to continue to do so for at least the next decade, particularly as it's identifying areas that can be removed from the workplace, which are not as competitive as VR, so like e-learning, onboarding of employees, new value again being created through VR. That's why VR in an enterprise basis is growing at such a rapid rate and will continue to do so for at least a decade. Our VR induction technology is amazing and is adding amazing new value to workplaces because it's realistic. Right now, people are doing their inductions and engaging in their new workplace, their new employer, through PowerPoint, through looking at a chart on the wall, through having a conversation. That's not adding immense value in the way we induct and engage and onboard people. VR technology, as we're applying it through 3D photogrammetry, with overlays of animations and realistic experiences, is adding new value. So people are loving that engagement. They're loving seeing that when they start with their new business, that they're getting a great realistic experience of the workplace, its dynamic, the safety requirements, the history of the workplace, the key figures in the workplace and the people. People are loving that. And we use 3D photogrammetry together with animations to overlay, and we call it the Minecraft of learning. And it's really resonating with our clients. There's definitely barriers to our technology growing in the workplace right now, but we look at those barriers as opportunities to overcome things. We look at those barriers in a positive way. You know, people talk about vertigo or motion sickness. We just look at that as an opportunity to be overcome. And it's not as if those sorts of hazards don't already exist or barriers don't already exist in other ways. Right now, e-learning and the other factors which are currently being used in the workplace, they have their own issues and they're not being overcome except by VR. So we're adding new value that way. There's certainly, cost facets associated with virtual reality technology, but there's also cost facets associated with existing methodologies of learning. The key thing is we're adding new value. So we're overcoming that by messaging to our clients, to customers out there, and playing a really significant role in awareness in the industry, giving people the opportunity to try before they buy. And, slowly we're having good conversations with clients and customers and slowly penetrating the market, and we'll continue to do so. VR developers are an amazing sort of position to have in a business these days, or career move for people. I think I saw a stat recently that had VR developers as the 7th most sought after role in the world, which is pretty incredible. So if you're starting off as a developer in the software space and you have a love for VR, you really got your world's your oyster. It's an amazing opportunity. VR developers can be involved in all kinds of sets. They can be involved in user experience, user design. They can be involved in business development, technical sales perspective. The sky's the limit for VR developers these days. They can end up being CEOs of businesses, entrepreneurs, building games, building gamified learning experiences, which is what we're looking for here. Got a great future VR developer these days, and it could be anything, and especially here at NextWorld. I think during this time, with COVID-19, there is a real opportunity for companies out there, organisations out there, and in Australia and around the world really to experiment with VR technology. Now they know that they can't do training the old-fashioned ways. It's just not available to send their people off to other companies for training or to bring in people for training. It just exposes them and greater risk profiles associated with that also. So now's a great opportunity to explore virtual reality learning, to actually go through a bit of a research project in your own organisation to try the technology, to see if it's going to work for you, to see if it really can add that new value that you're after, as well as meeting your requirements in the short term. So I think that's a really important thing that a lot of companies are really seeking at the moment. It's just, we better explore this technology is what they're saying to us, and they're really getting some amazing results out of it too. The applications for virtual reality technology are quite amazing, really. A lot of people used to think VR technology was just the domain of American military or aviation industry and just gaming. Well, I think people are realizing it has far more application than that these days. Certainly it's working greatly in the high-risk space to train people in high-risk occupations, high-risk skill sets that are required, give people exposure to those high-risk environments. But equally, it's being used for empathy building to help people understand bias, what it's like to be an Indigenous person, or what it's like to have experience with bias situations, putting people in the shoes of others. It's a wonderful thing. But it's also being used in the medical area. So surgeons are experiencing surgery before they actually do the real surgery and getting improvements in surgery outcomes. Amazing thing. I wouldn't want to have surgery any other way. It's being used in sporting arena. It's being used for helping organisations in sports with their tactical and strategy requirements to help them get better with their sporting tactics. It's really applying in every industry. And I think if you look at a traditional workplace training matrix, there is not a thing on that training matrix that can't eventually be turned into a virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality type experience, which in itself will add so much more value to the learning outcomes that we're seeking. You've got to really turn yourself to the purpose of learning. The purpose of sending people to training is so that they get the learning outcomes that you're after them to have so they can be better in the workplace, safer in the workplace, more productive. Conventional methods just aren't hitting the mark. They're not hitting the mark. E-learning is not working. This option, VR, is absolutely hitting the mark. Better than any other training methodology in the past. It's a new world value that VR is offering. One of the things I'm most excited about at the moment with what we're doing is really focusing in on hazard identification. And with the eye tracking technology that VR offers, we can actually see what the student or the person participating in the VR experience is actually looking at and what they associate from a risk profile perspective to the hazard that they're looking at. We can see that they've looked at a hazard for a period of time but not selected it. So that means that the person doesn't identify that as a hazard or perhaps can't associate the right risk profile to that hazard. That's something that is not offered with the other technologies of learning. VR is showing that we can now be predictive around that individual who couldn't identify hazards. Take that data along with a lot of other data and determine that that person has a heightened risk profile. That's the sort of thing that we're working on here at NextWorld. That's new value that's not currently out there and can help save people's lives in the workplace. We can correlate that kind of information with the fact that 80% of people who are involved in a fatality are in their first 9 months of employment. You take that, the fact that that individual is not good at hazard ID, then you're starting to associate some really critical data, aren't you? You're being predictive. And that is new value that is amazing, going to change the world when it comes to safety performance. VR is offering that, not traditional methods. The single biggest opportunity that VR presents in the world that we're playing, which is about people in the workplace, engagement, safety and training, is the predictive side of things. We are able to, with our technology, predict who is more likely to have an incident in the workplace by virtue of their experience with virtual reality technology. By knowing that Billy, who went through a VR experience, was going through hazard spotting and didn't identify the hazards. He looked at them, but he didn't identify them. That information we can now extrude and create some sort of predictive analysis on. That is the thing which excites me the most about what we're doing. It's a really interesting question, that one, because it's not as if VR is new tech. It's actually been around for 30 plus years. but it's never been in the shape it is now. And that's why I think it'll be part of our future moving forward. I think you're going to see virtual reality, particularly in the learning space, grow to such a state that things that we're used to in terms of the way we train people are going to go, they're going to fade away. Eventually, as we've got more and more developers on board, more and more software applications on board, AI, machine learning, these sorts of things are going to start to play a role in the virtual reality learning space. And I think it'll get to a point where it'll just outstrip the traditional methods of learning. And I think it'll drive down the cost of learning too, eventually, very, very significantly, even more so than it is right now. I think VR has all of the future ahead of it compared to e-learning and these other ones which I think will fade away. VR is where it is at in the future from a learning perspective. There's no doubt in my mind about that. If you're a software developer or if you're a marketing person, a business development person, and you're looking for a new experience, I think Nextworld might be that experience for you. If you're looking for a career change, something exciting, something where you're making a real difference, think about Nextworld. We're doing amazing things which are actually making real world new value differences. Think about looking at us, checking us out on socials, checking out our website, talking to us. I think we might be the match for you.